Chapter 29. The Heaven of Zhou. The Great Qin Heavenly Dynasty and the Great Yuan Imperial Dynasty had peace talks. A paper covenant spreads throughout the world. The war comes to an end. Great Yuan's Yingzhou soldiers completely withdrew. Everything in the Daqian Heavenly Dynasty was restored to its original state, except that the original King Liu Yong no longer existed. The Zhenan army, based in Yingzhou, Long Shenwu combed through the people's hearts. This time in the Battle of the Nations, it seemed that Daiwan was the biggest winner. It had conquered the territory of the great brilliant imperial dynasty, the territory of the greedy Wolf sect, and the territory of the Gunjin sect. The territory gained was nearly half of the previous Great Yuan. The Great Han Dynasty has taken over all the territories of the former Shen Lu Dynasty. With the order of the Great Chen Sage, the Great Yuan did not dare to pursue the matter any further. Moreover, the territory that the Great Yuan Imperial Dynasty had taken in this time was too large to be digested in one go, but it would take a long time. The Great Han Dynasty had luckily stood its ground, and likewise gave Gu Hai a real chance to catch his breath. Sorting out the 24 cities and regrouping the people's hearts was the first priority. On the 9-5 Islands, Crown Prince Gu Qing continued to sit on the throne. Many cultivators had never stepped out of the Thousand Island Sea in their lives, but at this moment, when they saw the rolling and churning qi in front of them, they were in a state of shock. Many cultivators were also wide-eyed at the constantly busy craftsmen inside and outside the city, repairing the large city walls. The one floating island in the city was many times more luxurious than the barren 9 and 5 islands. One must know that floating islands were pitifully few in the Thousand Island Sea. The entire Thousand Island Sea was counted in single digits, but there were thousands of them in front of them at a glance. "Yes, it's my Great Han's," Meng Tai sighed slightly. In the past, when he traveled to Silver Moon City, although he was shocked by the #1 piano building on this street, he was not as excited as he was today. That was just a shop, whereas here, it was a city, an entire city. Oh, no, a city like this. I have 24 of them in Great Han. Now, it's all owned by Great Han. By the Emperor's decree, the Great Han Dynasty is waiting to be revitalized. All of you must work together, Meng Tai said with a solemn expression. Yes, everyone bellowed in response. The Great Han Dynasty was sandwiched between Daqian and Dayuan, surviving in the cracks, weak in the eyes of some people in the Divine Continent, but in the eyes of this group of brocade guards today, it was instantly taller to the sky. 2 years or Great Han Dynasty has reached such a majestic. Jin Yue army slowly entered the city. The city has its own officials to guide, directly brought to the royal palace outside. Outside the imperial palace, Bingji had a huge map in front of her. A group of officials around them were waiting to be dispatched. Gu Hai ordered that the 3rd Army Chief, Bingji, was responsible for the post-disaster reconstruction of Kaogwo City. The city's great array was broken. This was Bingji's first task on the job, so naturally she had to do her best and constantly optimize the construction of the city's arrays and walls on the map. Meng Tai and his party came. Naturally, someone immediately informed Bingji. Bingji twisted her head to look and instantly saw Meng Tai. 3rd Army Chief, Bingji, meet Lord Meng, Bingji faintly said. Commander of the Brocade Guards, Meng Tai, meet the 3rd Army Chief, Meng Tai also solemnly said. At this time, Gao Xianzi, Tang Chu and the others also got the news and came to greet Meng Tai. Lord Meng, Gao Xianzi smiled. Lord Gao, Meng Tai also said politely. Lord Bing, just leave Meng Tai to me. You get busy. Gao Xianzi looked towards Meng Tai. Bingji nodded and turned her head to continue going to look at the map in front of her. That floating island. It's not suitable to be there. It will block the Imperial Palace's view. Move to the other side. Bing Ji faintly said. As she spoke, Ice Ji probed her hand and waved it. Boom! A floating island in the distance steeply and violently shook, being slowly moved by a strong force, moving to a point on the side. Heaven Opening Palace. Meng Tai's face abruptly changed. The Third Army Chief. She was of Open Heaven Palace strength. In this year or so, how on earth did the Emperor develop? Has the Open Heaven Palace even become the Emperor's vassal? Meng Tai became more and more cautious and clenched his fists. If he didn't work hard, would he be eliminated one day? Lord Meng, this way please, Gao Xianzi laughed. Oh, good, good, Meng Tai responded somewhat sheepishly. The Emperor told me to report to the Emperor as soon as I arrive. I wonder, Emperor, Meng Tai said doubtfully. Emperor, His Majesty is practicing. You come with me. Gao Xianzi laughed. Meng Tai nodded. Chaos City. Outside a large lake within the palace. Outside the large lake, a large number of troops were stationed to prevent outsiders from entering and disturbing it. In a small pavilion by the lake, Long Wenyu was lying on top of a desk, stacking Lu Ohon with dried fruits, his face stagnant. So boring, so boring, so boring. Long Wenyu's mouth rambled on. Behind him, a group of subordinates all revealed a hint of bitterness and stood aside without speaking. Right at this moment, an immortal crane car carrying Gao Xianzi and Meng Tai flew over. Long Wenyu sat up at once. Stop! What are you guys doing? Long Wenyu immediately said with a fierce little face. The crane car stopped. Gao Xianzi, but politely got out of the flying boat. Meng Tai curiously looked at Long Wenyu. Greetings to County Lord Wenyu. This is my Great Han Brocade Guards commander, Meng Tai. Just came from 9-5 Islands. The Emperor has orders. Once Meng Tai comes, let him come to see the Emperor, Gao Xianzi explained. Lord Meng, this is Empress Long Wanqing's own sister, the Wenyu County Lord of the Great Qian Dynasty, Gao Xianzi explained. The Empress's younger sister. Meng Tai's face steeped in solemnity, instantly remembering who it was. After all, Meng Tai had also followed Long Xiaoyu in the past, and counted himself as having seen the young Long Wenyu in her infancy. In her infancy, since then, the great Qian sage could treat her like a baby. Meng Tai has met County Lord Wenyu. Meng Tai immediately looked solemn and respectful. Well, you guys wait. Brother-in-law is creating a sword technique. He put me in charge of guarding the law. No one is allowed to disturb. Long Wenyu nodded. Good. Gao Xianzi nodded. Good. Meng Tai also nodded, creating a sword technique. The Emperor was only in his 70s, and he was founding a sword technique. How well could it be created? Although he knew that the Emperor was powerful, but for Gu Hai to create a blade technique, Meng Tai felt that it was just that. Maybe a little bit more powerful, but just a little bit. What Meng Tai found hard to understand was that the Great Han Dynasty was now a powerful 24 immortal city. So was it difficult to find a more powerful blade technique? Why do they still need to create their own? At the bottom of the Great Lake, Gu Hai was indeed creating a blade technique. Most of the people who created sword techniques had been enlightened in the Tao of the sword for many years before they dared to say that they had created a new sword technique. How many years has Gu Hai been here? Starting from the time he crossed over from Earth. It was only 40 years at the most, and what's more, the profound blade techniques were still seen in the later stages after the founding of the country. It was just a bunch of blade techniques that had been researched in the past 2 years. How could one talk about founding a saber technique? However, Gu Hai had a place where regular people were invincible. It was the chess spirit split. Furthermore, the blade technique that Gu Hai created was not an ordinary blade technique. Rather, it was related to chess. At the bottom of the lake, swimming fish shuttled around. Gu Hai stood on top of a large rock at the bottom of the lake, grasping a long knife in his hand. The blood blade had burst into pieces, and the bone blade was unused, Gu Hai grabbed an ordinary long knife. As soon as the long knife came out, a huge blade astral deity coalesced, and at the bottom of the lake, it was as if Gu Hai was grasping a 10 feet long knife. Gu Hai's face showed a grimace. Using his true essence to control the blade dipper, he was even able to capture the existence of the blade intent with the terrifying analytical ability of his chess spirit. The blade intent was very weak, and it was only at the level of an ordinary blade cultivator. However, Gu Hai's blade intent was different from others. With Gu Hai as the center, around the bottom of the lake, 226 knife chair lined up and spread out. The knife chair was divided into two types, one black and one white, smoothly laying out a bizarre figure. If a chess player here will find these knife gas row into but a disc of vertical and horizontal 19 lines of chess. The white blade gas was white chess, and the black blade gas was black chess. The knife chair is shaking, obviously being **** precisely controlled, to be reached to perfection. It's finally done. One of the 100,000 stumps brought from Earth in the past can be used to condense this blade. Gu Hai's eyes condensed. A fierce blade chopped down in his hand. As the long blade chopped down, the blade astral body seemed to form a suction force, and the 226 handles of blade chair, instead of rushing out like other people swinging their swords, bizarrely followed the order of a chess game's falling pieces and blasted towards the blade astral body. Buzz. The Big Dipper instantly blossomed with a dazzling purple light as a slew of blade chess surged in. Break. Gu Hai let out a loud shout. The knife dipper chopped down with a loud bang. Boom. A lake's water, as if from the center, was instantly chopped in half, exploding and shooting towards both sides of the blade. On the shore, Long Wenyu waited in boredom. Huh, look, Gao Xianzi's eyes lit up. The lake water that was cut actually could not recover for a long time to merge. The lake was cut. This is not Isal. Cutting the knife will not dare to overstep again. A hint of confidence flashed in the eyes of the ancient sea at the bottom of the lake. Barely. Once again, another earth brought the remnants of the map blade chair cohesion, with Gu Hai a knife cut down. Boom, the lake was sliced once again. Bear Jin, Bear Jin, Bear Jin. Each slash is a stump piece, a stump game with 19 lines across. That's 361 stumps. I'm standing in the Chaeyuan position, and each slash is 360 handles of blade chair united with my blade deity. 361 is the number of the circumference. This blade technique, let's name it Circumference of Heaven. Gu Hai said in a deep voice. Boom. Once again, the blade slashed out. 100,000 stumps. This is the basic circumheaven blade technique. This blade technique, I can chop out 100,000 types. That is, 100,000 slashes. A hint of confidence flashed in Gu Hai's eyes. But 80,000 of them underwent a 4-4 merger and condensation, which is the new complex remnants. Try it. Gu Hai's eyes condensed. With his feet on the heavenly yuan, the saber diameters in his hands reappeared, and under the condensation of saber intent, a hilt of saber chair once again surrounded Gu Hai as if black and white chess pieces were being dropped. Buzz buzz buzz. After the 4-4 merged, a condensed disc of chess suddenly appeared. Chop. Gu Hai once again chopped down. Boom, a super loud bang. The entire Great Lake blasted skyward, full of lake water, as if all of it was lifted off in an instant by a huge tremor. The earth shook violently, and with the ancient sea as the center, a vast trench rushed straight into the distant mountain peaks. Mengtai, Gao Xianzi, and Long Wenyu in the outside world only felt a loud bang as a lake of water all exploded, and a purple blade light could be vaguely seen rushing out. Boom. In the distance, there were 3 large mountains in a row, which were split in half by a booming blade. 3 mountains, all split in half by a blade. The water of a lake was all blown up. "Ah, Your Majesty." Some of the guards worried in shock. However, they saw a lake of water explode into the sky, revealing Gu Hai standing on a boulder at the bottom of the lake, grasping the long sword in his hand, a hint of surprise flashing in his eyes. This is one of the blades from the 4-4 merger. The power is actually 100 times that of just now. A trace of excitement flashed in Gu Hai's eyes. The previous basic blade technique was called Zhou Chai, and this blade is called Zhou Chai. Gu Hai took a deep breath. Clatter. Zhou Heavenly 2. The power is 100 times that of Zhou Heavenly 1, the second 4-4 merged remnants. Wouldn't that be Zhou Heaven 3? I have 10,000 pieces of Zhou Heavenly 3. And among these 10,000 Zhou Chasan, there are some that are merging with the 4, and are trying to condense the Zhou chassis. By analogy, won't the power of the blade technique become stronger and stronger? A trace of excitement flashed in Gu Hai's eyes. Circumstantial too. A sword slashed down, and the great lake exploded as much as it could. In his excitement, Gu Hai tried to prepare to swing and chop Zhou Chia free. The foot stepped on the heavenly yuan, and the blade intent condensed the chair. Buzz buzz buzz. A manic saber intent aura rushed straight out in all directions. Countless generals in the 4 directions suddenly felt a chilling sensation where Gu Hai was. It was as if a heart-stopping blade intent had been inserted into the hearts of the crowd. All around the falling lake, more bizarre automatic avoidance of the general. This, how what blade technique? Meng Tai revealed a hint of shock. This was the first time that Meng Tai had seen such a bizarre blade technique. That blade intent catalyzed. A great killing intent filled the air, stimulating Meng Tai's body to chill. Of course it was created by my brother-in-law, Long Wen Yu proudly said. Not good. This blade intent. How could this bizarre blade intent appear in the hands of a Yuanying realm? You, do you want to hide far away? The demon ghost spirit inside his body also let out a cry of consternation. It's fine. It's not like I'm feeling a great evil. By the way, is the blade technique created by my brother-in-law very powerful? Long Wen Yu said excitedly. I don't know. It's the first time I've seen such a jump in blade intent. The first jump is actually 100 times the previous one. How is this possible? Demon Ghost Spirit said with a wave of shock. Heh, that's because you're ignorant. Long Wen Yu did not give face at all. Demon Ghost Spirit. Gu Hai prepared to chop out Zhou Chasan before Zhou Chasan came out. This true yuan consumption was what made Gu Hai's face sink. It was just that the true essence consumption was huge. More importantly, the long knife in his hand actually couldn't withstand this blade intent and actually cracked. Ka-ka-ka-ka-ka-ka-ka-ka. Boom. The long knife was suddenly burst by the blade intent. It turned into fragments all over the sky. The long knife exploded, and Gu Hai also leaked his blade intent. Boom. The surrounding lake water suddenly poured back. Whew. Gu Hai let out a long breath. That's just it. Since the Zhou Heaven is feasible, it's enough. 100,000 pieces of Zhou Chai, 20,000 pieces of Zhou Chia 2. It's enough to cope with everyday Zhou Chia 3. There isn't a good sword, yet it can't be chopped out at all. Dropping the hilt of the blade in his hand, Gu Hai stepped out and flew towards the shore. Brother-in-law, you've achieved great success with your blade technique. Long Wen Yu called out excitedly.